The humans inside the Apocalypse Fortress are terrifying, simply because Robert is from outside the fortress. Everyone speaks ill of him. The people in the fortress subconsciously reject refugees. More radical than Robert imagined. Is all this really a moral decay? Or a distortion of human nature? Jessica is a bit angry facing all this. Aren't we all human beings? Who said refugees will definitely spread diseases? She said, "Did any of your children come home sick last night?" As a teacher, Jessica at this moment is somewhat persistent and adorable. She is even a bit silly. But if the other person didn't have this kind of persistence and perseverance, Robert wouldn't have helped the other in the wilderness. Jessica debated with the group of scholars. She requested to have Robert join their class. And at this moment, a sudden voice rose from the crowd saying, "I also request to join your class." Because all of Jessica's students do not have parents. This is actually Jessica's pain point. This time, the application for Robert to join only needs the student's consent. Suddenly, a riot broke out outside the crowd. More than 10 students walked up to Jessica and expressed their willingness to have Robert teach the class. In the eyes of these students of Jessica, stepping up for Robert at this moment is simply a gesture of gratitude. If it weren't for Robert, they wouldn't be alive, sitting in the classroom, attending the lesson. Robert went back to the classroom to get his backpack and prepare for the shift change. Before leaving, Robert came to Clara's side and said, "Wish you an early recovery." On the way to the new class, Jessica said to Robert, "If you have any difficulties with your studies recently, you can tell me anything. I can teach you whatever you don't understand and give you extra lessons." Robert thought for a moment and said, "Indeed, there are some knowledge that I need to consult teacher Jessica about." Jessica asked, "Which subject do you need help with?" Robert paused for a moment and said, "I need help with the subject of cycling." The frequent shift changes led to Robert unexpectedly becoming desk mates with Julia. Even Robert has to sigh. Perhaps this is fate. After school in the afternoon, Ryan watched as Jessica and Robert came back together. He said, "Thank you," at the sight of Jessica for the first time. Ryan is really starting to dislike those people from Fortress more and more. Of course, Jessica and her students are exceptions. He then took out his bicycle for Jessica to teach everyone. He said, "When riding a bicycle, you need to maintain balance. Also, do not look at the front wheel. Look ahead. Overcome your fear." He watched as Jessica rode her bicycle back and forth effortlessly, exuding a charm unique to mature women. Robert just wanted to give it a try. A roar suddenly came from a distance. The sound was like a bomb exploding inside the fortress. He wondered, was it Julia who did it? He told Cody and Ryan, "You guys take the guns and lock the store door. Don't open it until I come back. Jessica, you should also hide here with us, just in case something happens, so we can take care of it together." After saying that, Robert left the store. Now, as a supernatural entity, he can no longer stay out of it. He must personally gather first-hand information with his own eyes and ears. Only in this way can he make the most accurate judgment. Only then can he lead everyone to continue living. Robert got tricked by Julia again. Same tricks, same methods. A wish of good luck encapsulates Julia's consistent trickery. Robert has been in a bad state after being tricked. Just now, Robert heard an explosion and rushed over. The tall building in front of him should be the most convenient for observing the battle situation. However, when he just climbed to the edge of the rooftop and prepared to jump up, a dark gun barrel was pressed against his forehead. Robert was stunned. He didn't expect anyone up there. He looked up. The other person was wearing a familiar duckbill hat. The explosion should not have been caused by Julia. After all, there is some distance between here and the explosion point. Julia also seemed surprised to see Robert here unexpectedly. The two of them have a strange understanding. Robert climbed onto the rooftop and dusted himself off. What happened that caused such a commotion? It turns out that Seed of Fire Company encountered a supernatural entity selling blood. They intended to capture it, but failed. Robert sighed in his heart. Fortunately, he did not go to sell blood and also stopped Cody. However, such a powerful company. How dare they lure a supernatural entity without being fully prepared? With Julia's explanation, Robert finally understood. This time, the supernatural entity has a companion. They agreed to help each other in case something goes wrong before exchanging blood for money. Robert now understands. The supernatural entity that went to sell blood was also prepared. Now that the Seed of Fire Company has made a mistake, it seems like the perfect opportunity to take advantage of them. Julia shook her head. Their dawn combat sequence is very powerful, even though there were only 5 of them. The reason why those 2 supernatural entities can hold on until now is because Leon from the Q family is also playing tricks. And Leon's reason for directly challenging the Seed of Fire Company is because Luca set up an ambush last year and captured over 100 members of the Seed of Fire Company. The 2 sides have long been mortal enemies. What's the relationship with this unknown_0? Are the conflicts between corporations always this intense? Robert couldn't help but ask again, saying, why did you kill Luca when you were clearly not on good terms with Seed of Fire Company? Isn't the enemy of your enemy your friend? Julia gave him a glance. She said, an enemy is just an enemy. We don't play the game of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At this moment, the huge sniper rifle in Julia's hand manifested, whether it was from the Seed of Fire Company or Luca. They are all trying to grasp something that they fundamentally cannot control. Whether they succeed or fail, it is a disaster. At this moment, Robert sees countless L Corporation combat troops arriving at the battlefield. Watching the L family arrive leisurely, Robert can't help but complain. Julia, who was observing with a sniper rifle in hand, replied, they have more important things to protect. They won't mind. After saying this, Julia's breathing suddenly calmed down. She followed the direction of her gun barrel and looked ahead. Robert saw a person climbing out of the sewer. It turned out to be Leon. What puzzled Robert is that this big shot from Corporation Q. Why are you so familiar with the sewer of the L family? Julia took out an observation device from her pocket and handed it to Robert, who was stunned at the moment. Facing that cruel voice, he had no choice but to obediently state the wind speed and distance. As soon as Robert finished speaking, Julia swiftly calculated the compensation angle to make adjustments. Robert is puzzled. Are you going to kill Leon? With a bang, Julia answered Robert with a gunshot. The roaring of the gunshot in the night sky was so abrupt that it almost startled Robert. It turns out the bullet did not shoot at Leon, but aimed at the off-road vehicle. Leon, who had not run to the side of the car yet, was angry at that moment. He was about to get on the car and run away. As a result, the car was exploded by someone. Leon could only lead Thomas and others to drill back into the sewer. And in Julia's eyes, such an operation was just for fun. Robert watched as the L Corporation combat troops in the distance began to surround this area. At this moment, Julia smiled and said, "Wish you good luck," before she finished speaking. A door opened in the shadow next to Julia. Just in this moment, Robert had heard someone shouting loudly, "There are snipers in the bank building." He turned around and crawled towards the building below. If they don't leave soon, they will be surrounded by L Corporation. Robert was all sweaty when he returned to the shop. Ryan looked at Robert returning nervously and asked, "Bro, are you injured? What happened?" Robert briefly described what had just happened. Prepare for Cody to take Jessica back first. However, at this moment, suddenly, a knocking sound came from outside the shop. It turned out that Leon brought people over. Robert opened the door. He looked at Leon with a strange expression and said, "Why do you smell so bad?" Leon took them into the shop, wanting Robert to use the all-purpose wound medicine to help the injured person. Robert pretended to be casual and asked, "How did this injury happen?" The explosion in the fortress just now wouldn't have anything to do with you guys, would it? Leon almost jumped up. We just accidentally fell down. Actually, Leon knew that these words could only deceive ghosts. How could Robert, such a clever person, possibly believe his lies? But Robert wanted to discuss Leon a bit. Did you walk here? Where is your car? Leon could only come up with another lie, saying the car was taken for maintenance. Don't talk about what happened today. Otherwise, I'll reveal that Cody is a supernatural entity. Robert took out the all-purpose wound medicine without goodwill. He carefully examined the unconscious person, speculating in his heart that this might be one of the two supernatural entities from tonight. Did you just go out? Robert pointed to the bicycles in the yard. I just learned how to ride a bike. Teacher Jessica is here specifically to teach us. Jessica's expression is very natural. Luna took a towel and helped the supernatural entity wipe the blood stains off its face. She explained in surprise. She turned out to be a woman after all. She looked to be around 27 years old. Cody approached at this moment. Master, it seems to be a celestial dragon horse. This woman went to Seed of Fire Company with her brother to donate blood in order to receive $1 million reward. Unexpectedly, all the rewards turned out to be a hoax, and they were ambushed by the other party. The brother unfortunately died a tragic death. While waiting, Leon wanted a supernatural entity bodyguard to save her. After Luna applied the all-purpose wound medicine to her, the other party also wakes up successfully, looking at Leon's attentive appearance. The other party still cannot believe that it was Leon who saved them. She was about to walk out with a weak body. Luna quickly walked over to help her up and comforted her. Your injuries are not healed yet. You cannot move. You cannot move. As a result, only to see tears falling down her face one by one. My brother is still in the hands of the Seed of Fire Company. But her brother had been blown away by an RPG long ago. Just because Seed of Fire Company only wants blood and not live captives, Robert remained silent at this moment. When he first heard about Seed of Fire Company, he initially thought the Seed of Fire Company was about symbolism related to the continuation of humanity. Now it seems that the other party is not a good person. Leon said in a dissatisfied tone, I'll give you $30,000 tomorrow. She knew she couldn't save her brother. And Leon tried to win over this woman with emotion, but she was not buying it at all. Her name is Daisy. After expressing her gratitude to Robert, she is preparing to leave. As soon as she finished speaking, Daisy fainted again. Luckily, Luna was there to help her. She said, What should we do about Robert? Robert looked at Leon coldly and said, Hurry up and take her away. Leon used a money tactic in response to Robert's expression like that. Robert then had Cody guard the doorway to prevent anyone from running off without paying. The next morning, a few students on their way to school bumped into Julia at the school gate. Ryan greeted politely, saying, Hello, sister. Julia responded cheerfully, Hello to you too. Tomorrow I will bring you some delicious food. I'll have your brother pass it on to you. Robert felt a bit uneasy watching this scene. When did these two become so close? At this moment, Julia suddenly curiously said, Robert, didn't you invite teacher Jessica to teach you how to ride a bike yesterday? Why didn't you ride it here today? Did you not learn how to ride it? Robert pondered for a moment and said, I sent my bike for maintenance. After Robert finished speaking, he saw Julia right at the school gate, laughing so hard that she couldn't even stand up straight in broad daylight. She said the car needs an oil change and filter replacement to maintain it. At this moment, Robert finally knew where he had gone wrong. He suffered a great loss due to his poverty. Then Julia immediately claimed that she learned how to ride a bike in just one try, which shut Robert up. He asked Palace, but the answer was unexpectedly that the other party did not have any bike-related skills. At this moment, Robert just realized that Julia, this girl, lies so smoothly that she doesn't even need to draft her lies. In the next class, Julia was called upon by the teacher to answer a question because she was absent-minded. But to everyone's surprise, Julia took off her own baseball cap and put it on Robert's head directly. Looking at her exquisite and stunning face, Robert was taken aback by how beautiful Julia was. You absolutely cannot imagine how amazing the skills of these two beauties are. Julia's advanced jump rope skills are beyond imagination. Now even Lucy has mastered the advanced nose-picking technique. Does this advanced nose-picking technique result in cleaner nostrils? It took 2 pieces of paper, but Robert finally drew Lucy's skill, Gate of Shadow. The first ability, Shadow, was already so powerful. But this time, its significance is even more significant. Robert tried to use this ability. In an instant, 2 Gate of Shadow appeared in front of him. One is the entrance, and one is the exit. The only flaw is that he is still unable to locate the position to open the exit. The current position of the exit deviates quite a bit from what he had imagined. When he tried to go through the door at the entrance, something unexpected happened. Robert was stunned. He tried countless times in just a minute, but no matter how hard he tried, he could only get one hand through. Could it be that when using the map, Lucy only stuck out one arm? Can this palace still be navigated by the map? Why can others shuttle freely, while I can only extend one arm to go over there? What if I encounter danger in the future and need to escape? Do I let my hand run first? Robert returned to the store and began to practice. He repeatedly opened the Gate of Shadow, trying to find the rules within the shadows. At this time, Luna came over with a frown to find him. What about Ryan? Did you forget about them at school? Robert then realized. I will go pick them up now. Jessica led Warren and Ryan in. She chuckled and said, Weren't we supposed to continue learning how to ride a bike today? Why did someone leave class early? Ryan coldly stared at Robert and said, I was waiting for you upstairs in the teaching building. I watched as you walked away with Julia. Robert suddenly felt extremely embarrassed. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine came from outside the door. A car stopped at the door. Leon's voice came from outside. Robert, come take a look at my new car. Robert rolled his eyes. He said, Buying a new car just to show off, huh? Having money doesn't make you so great. What happened to our agreement about the money? It turns out that Leon brought a lot of supplements for Daisy this time he came over. At that moment, Robert seemed to see love in Leon. He knocked on the door for a long time, but there was no response. You can't be serious. A big shot from Corporation Q like you. It's been criticized for such a long time. Why are you still rushing in and courting humiliation? Leon is not happy. You don't understand. I used to be like a lotus flower in the midst of thorns, not tainted by a single leaf. Robert laughed upon hearing this, as if he had figured out that the medicine you bought from me was actually used by Thomas. Snap! Leon looked even more embarrassed. However, Leon is not an ordinary person either. He pulled Robert to change the subject, saying, Can I borrow Cody from you recently? He intended to borrow Cody to see his research results. But Robert refused when he realized he couldn't get any information out of him. At that moment, a person from Corporation Q walked in. He whispered a few words to Leon and then left in a hurry. Robert looked at the figure of that person. He felt that Corporation Q might be plotting something. How can I lose weight quickly? Have one steamed bun for breakfast, lunch, and dinner respectively. Is it supposed to be eaten before or after meals? This is the weight loss plan that Robert has designed for Leon. Leon decided to treat steamed buns as weight loss pills in order to pursue Daisy. Looking at the beauty before him, Robert felt that Leon probably has an obsession with supernatural entity. I heard Cody saying that Ben Borba was trying to turn him over before. Now he's risking his life to rescue Daisy. And he launched a fierce attack on Daisy again. If this Daisy has a problem, it's like having a time bomb beside you. Robert felt something was not quite right. He must be more cautious with this Daisy. Just at this moment, Palace suddenly said that the side quest is to shelter the refugees for 7 days. After completing the task, you could unlock new items in the vending machine. Robert was stunned for a moment. He thought that the vending machine only sold all-purpose wound medicine. It turns out that new items can only be unlocked by completing tasks. During dinner, Robert casually asked Daisy, saying, "What is your super ability?" "I am relatively strong," Daisy whispered. Robert felt that her ability was somewhat useless. He said with emotion, "To be honest, with just your ability alone, it would be difficult to escape without the help of Leon and the others." Daisy defended, saying, "He doesn't have good intentions. His expression and tone are off." Originally, Daisy was planning to seek revenge on Seed of Fire Company. How could Robert agree? So he earnestly advised against it. "If caught and tortured, you might even expose that we have been sheltering you. The mission will be ruined if she leaves." Robert suddenly realized that Cody was feeling a little down after finishing speaking. At this moment, Ryan whispered a few words to Cody. Cody immediately smiled and agreed. Robert looked at Ryan curiously and said, "What did you say to him to make him so happy?" "It's simple to make him happy. It's a must." Ryan drank his porridge before saying, calling him Monkey King Yukong would do. Robert stood still for a moment. He suddenly realized that Ryan, this kid, is really good at grasping the key points. Next, Daisy was tied up by Cody. No matter how strong she was no match for Cody now. Daisy was shocked. She had originally thought she was being rescued by a good Samaritan. She now feels like she has fallen into a den of thieves and being kidnapped. It's as if they are about to ask her family for ransom. She was thinking of shouting for help. But before she could shout, Cody stuffed a handkerchief into her mouth. If it weren't for Robert taking on the task and accepting money from Leon again, he might have kicked Daisy out long ago. Then Robert pulled Ryan into the house. Ryan took a few steps back after preparing to try out the newly copied Gate of Shadow. Robert opened the Gate of Shadow in his mind. There was no response at all. It wasn't until he searched that he found it. The gate opened all the way to the floor, a move that seemed quite unreliable. Ryan felt a sudden panic in his heart. He said, "Maybe you shouldn't use me as an experiment for now." This is the super ability Gate of Shadow. Robert successfully replicated Lucy's ability through the palace. Originally about 2 meters long. Only one arm can pass through due to Robert's willful alteration. At this moment, the Gate of Shadow is only the size of an arm's thickness in a circle. In order to prevent Ryan from being a guinea pig, Robert told Ryan, "Tomorrow, when you go shopping for groceries with Luna, buy a live chicken." Robert is very confident in his ability to surprise others by hitting them with a stick when they least expect it. Although this ability is still a bit imperfect, it fits well with Robert's character. With Ryan's cooperation, Robert starts making bombs. The next day on campus, Jessica came to the classroom to prepare to elect a class monitor and study committee member. At this time, a classmate recommended Robert to be the class monitor and a girl to be the study committee member. This way it's easier to distinguish. And Robert doesn't know what the class monitor does. He thinks he can get a stipend. It wasn't until Julia's response that he knew the monitor's role is to motivate everyone to study. She finished speaking and then laid down to sleep again. She said that Leon is planning something very dangerous recently. You'd better keep a certain distance from him. Robert has become interested. He also suspects that Leon is up to something suspicious. What is Leon doing? She said, "We saw people from Corporation Q scouting outside number 4 mental hospital." Julia calmly replied, "It looks like they are planning to rob that mental hospital." Robert is hearing about robbing a mental hospital for the first time. And inside this mental hospital is a very dangerous supernatural entity. If Leon releases him, the entire 109 fortress may fall into an unknowable future. Robert understood as soon as it was said. After failing to subdue Daisy, Leon actually shifted his focus to the so-called number 4 mental hospital. And Leon dared to rob the L family's mental hospital, all because of the people Luca planted in 109 Fortress. Even if something goes wrong, we can just make Luca pay for the ransom. And the person in this mental hospital has an extraordinary ability. That is hypnosis. Every day, even the food delivery person wears noise-canceling headphones and pushes the food in through the door. Why don't they just kill such terrifying people? Robert asked curiously. Julia is now puzzled. They didn't do anything wrong. Why should they be killed? Your logic is very strange. However, this time Robert calmly said, How do you judge good and evil? And who decides the standards of judgment? Julia fell silent. The world has been destroyed by those things before. We just don't want to see this world fall into despair again. Robert was stunned. This is the result of a previous cause. The organization to which Julia belongs is clearing up things that once destroyed the world. At this moment, Julia says, the supernatural entity that Leon saved has a problem. If she is following by Leon's side, you should also be careful. This is the most professional binding technique I have ever seen. She's much more pitiful than Scapegoat Cooper. In the backyard of the shop, Luna is busy washing vegetables and cooking. Because Robert had mentioned that this Daisy has issues, so he has never approached her. Cody has been watching Daisy all along, and at this moment, he is sitting on a small stool beside Daisy, watching a line of ants on the ground attentively. He still hasn't noticed that Daisy, who was originally tied up behind him. I didn't know when she had slowly freed herself from the ropes. Just as Cody was preparing to go out for a meal, Daisy's arm suddenly climbed onto Cody's neck. She was like she was lying on Cody. Daisy whispered, Brother, what are you looking at? He said, Guest, please behave yourself. Cody replied contently. But as soon as the words fell, Daisy had already opened her crimson mouth. 2 fangs between her lips, and teeth quickly grew out. She bit Cody's neck in one go. With a snap, her teeth broke when Daisy bit down. At that moment, a golden armor suddenly appeared under Cody's skin on his shoulder. Then the armor wrapped his entire shoulder and neck. Daisy never expected such a turn of events. But before she could react, a sudden gust of wind swept through the room. In an instant, Cody was on his knees, turning around with a punch. The heavy blow landed on Daisy's abdomen, causing blood to splatter out in one go. It almost killed her. However, Cody did not show mercy just because the other party was a woman. Instead, he punched Daisy in the face 2 more times. Daisy has completely lost the ability to fight. She has even lost her normal ability to think. Her head is buzzing. Cody sneered. It takes 3 punches to be enough. Only then can it be called 3 strikes on the white bone demon. Daisy used to squat at the entrance of Seed of Fire Company, looking to find an opportunity to suck blood to enhance her super ability. But she couldn't figure it out. How did she end up in this situation now? At this moment, Daisy immediately set upon seeing Luna. Luna, you are the kindest. Please let them release me. However, before finishing her sentence, Daisy saw Luna handing Cody another rope. Tie her up tighter this time. To be honest, Robert really doesn't want to treat a woman like this. But in this world, there are no distinctions between men and women when it comes to safety risks. Kindness is precious. However, if a kind person doesn't pick up a weapon, then they are considered weak. Cody, you did a great job this time and deserve praise. However, remember to lock the door properly to prevent Leon from seeing it. In the face of Robert's praise, Cody is as happy as a child. Just as a few people were about to go out for a meal, Robert felt like something was missing. Ryan said that what was missing was the sound of Leon trying to please Daisy. Robert immediately realized that Leon and the others were planning to rob number 4 mental hospital. It's not going to happen tonight, is it? Do you know where number 4 mental hospital is located? Robert took a map and went to number 4 mental hospital. Just arrived at the entrance. Suddenly, someone pushed open a manhole cover from the inside to the outside of number 4 mental hospital. Immediately after, 30 heavily armed combatants emerged from the inside, along with the chubby Leon. Thomas instructed in the simple communication device to split into 3 groups, infiltrate separately, and avoid engaging in battle. Withdraw immediately upon locating White Rat number 2. Eliminate all targets except for White Rat number 2. There are only 2 supernatural entities in this number 4 mental hospital. But number 1 is too dangerous according to the intelligence information. So Leon chose to give up. Leon had seen the information when he passed by the data room before. I saw a young man with fair and delicate features sitting in the interrogation room, and opposite him was a doctor in a white coat. The man seems unable to remember something. Then the doctor starts to hypnotize him. In a countdown, the man suddenly opened his eyes, startling the doctor. The second hypnosis followed closely, and this time a mutation occurred suddenly. The doctor actually fell asleep. The young man watched all this with a smile on his face. Leon looked at the information and felt a little emotional. It turned out that this was the legendary Demon Whisperer, which seemed to be triggered by the process of hypnosis opening his super ability. Demon Whisperer is a term used among corporations for a supernatural entity with extremely powerful hypnotic abilities. No matter what, only take number 2 away. After saying that, the operatives of Corporation Q worked efficiently. Leon had just led the team in. The team from L family's car arrived at the door. Robert watched all this. He knew that there would definitely be casualties in this battle led by Leon. If they need treatment, they will definitely come to him. He must go back early now. On the other side, Leon looked at number 2 on the operating table. He's too young. 10 or 11 years old. They could be my daughter. How can I help him fight? At this time, the combat team has already knocked number 2 off the operating table. He said, "Boss, we need to leave quickly." Several people had just come out from the courtyard and were heading towards the vehicles, when suddenly several loud explosions were heard. The vehicles in the distance exploded directly, shining like brilliant fireworks in the midnight. Leon got angry at that moment. Who is this unknown _0? Always idle and has nothing to do, but insists on damaging my new car. I won't let you off the hook. Looking at these, Julia in the distance had a faint smile on her lips. Inside the Herbal Hall clinic, Ryan pulled everyone to pray for Robert. The most miserable one was Daisy, who was tied up and seated there. Robert just walked in and asked everyone to clean up. Leon arrived shortly. Sure enough, not long after, Robert heard the sound of a manhole cover being lifted outside the rolling shutter door. To be honest, Robert was a bit curious about how these people could accurately find the manhole cover in front of his house. Thomas said to Robert, "This is our boss's cousin." At this time, Cody approached again. He carefully, very carefully, scrutinized the little girl for a long time. Suddenly, he said to Robert, "Master, it seems like this time is it." This is interrupted by Leon saying, "What's going on? You think everyone looks like your celestial dragon horse at home." Cody shook his head. Not celestial dragon horse, but a carrying pole. I have to say, the team from Journey to the West is getting more and more organized now. Cody not only gathered the 4 disciples, he even considered bringing the carrying pole into the picture. Robert is thinking about waiting for the return of the 2 baskets and the celestial dragon horse. So, this carrying pole girl is named Sarah. Super ability means extraordinary strength. Robert felt a little uneasy as soon as he heard this. You should know that the person who claimed to have only great strength is still tied up in the room. Sarah casually slapped Warren, frightening him into quickly begging for mercy. Ryan sighed and said, "Kids nowadays are really extraordinary." Leon is having a hard time accepting this reality. He can't understand how the person he worked so hard to save has joined the Journey to the West team. I don't believe it. This little girl must have been misled. In Leon's opinion, there are seldom such coincidences in this world. It's understandable if one person is crazy. However, if 2 people go crazy together, it becomes a bit peculiar. At some point, Robert suddenly felt like he might truly be the rebirth of Tang Monk. Ryan stared at the little girl and asked, "Who am I?" She replied, "You are the White Dragon." The little girl said nonchalantly. He said, "Too bad. I'm not." At this time, applause came from outside the shop. A young man with a delicate face walked in with a smile. "Indeed, I can't deceive all of you. Liren, come back." The atmosphere in the whole room became tense. Robert didn't even notice when this young man walked in. Leon then picked up the firearm weapons and aimed it at the young man, looking as if he was facing a formidable enemy. It's not that Leon is overly tense. It's that he knows the other party's identity. Demon Whisperer. The original visitor's name is LeBron, a discarded member of the L family. He calls himself a discarded member probably because he was confined in a mental hospital by the L family. Robert calmly looked at the other person and asked, "What is your purpose?" LeBron looked at Robert and smiled, saying, "I just came over to say hello to everyone." Looking at the Robert in front of him, LeBron's eyes revealed a red light. "I always feel like you are special." Now it's Robert's turn to be surprised. LeBron pointed to his head and smiled, saying, "This place is special. So, if we are destined, we will meet again." "Leon, I didn't hypnotize your subordinate. You don't need to worry too much." LeBron looks like he's going to leave. Robert hurriedly shouts to stop him. "Why didn't you come out of the mental hospital before?" LeBron thought for a moment and said that it was not time to come out yet. This sentence suddenly made Robert realize that there must be something that LeBron must do when he comes out. Could it be related to the research results of L Corporation as well? LeBron walked into the night with Sarah. This time Leon was disappointed. "Why does the L family detain their own descendants?" Robert asked curiously. "The inside of the corporation is not as beautiful as you imagine. Cutthroat competition is everywhere. I want to make a name for myself within the family. You have to climb up by stepping on the shoulders of your brothers and sisters." Robert laughed. "Then how many brothers and sisters did you and Luca step on?" "He holds heavy troops in his hand to win thousands of miles. Luca is naturally thoughtful and prepares for the future. His daily hobbies, however, are listening to operas and planting flowers." In Leon's eyes, Luca is a born leader. Robert didn't expect that Leon would be so protective of his younger brother. He said that even if his own life was miserable, he could still manage to survive. The current 109 fortress has already started to become chaotic. The Y family has arrived, and the Seed of Fire Company is still hiding in the dark. The Demon Whisperer has also appeared. Even the thugs have showed up. Leon gave Robert a warning glance. "Don't be too conspicuous recently." Robert looked at him. "Aren't you the most conspicuous person in the fortress now?" Robert was curious. Why didn't the Q family send anyone to support us here? Leon boldly stated that he could handle 1,000 men on his own. However, the headquarters of Corporation Q is located on the mountainside inside Fortress 111. The elderly man sitting at the head of the conference room tapped the table with his finger and asked, "How is Quint's progress?" "They bypassed Mountain J the day before yesterday, so they should arrive at Fortress 113 today," said a middle-aged man. "He will first eliminate the remaining experiment objects there, and then wait for the follow-up post-disaster reconstruction team to arrive. They will go to Mountain J again to search for the organisms inside the volcano crater. It seems that these organisms should have fallen back into a deep sleep. They don't seem to have any intention of leaving the crater. We suspect that they depend on the temperature of the volcano. To ensure the successful reconstruction of Fortress 113, the Q family has directly deployed a combat team this time. Because the resources near Fortress 113 are crucial, post-disaster reconstruction work must be completed as soon as possible." The old man said to the young man, "Quaid, you cooperate with them to arrange for the refugees to work over there." "Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe," the old man said calmly as he nodded. "Let's cool him off first. The young man's aggressiveness is too strong. He needs to be humbled." No one else has expressed an opinion on the matter. However, at this moment, someone knocked on the door of the meeting room. It turns out that the 7th Combat Team led by Quint was attacked by the experiment object. Currently, they are retreating with over half of the team casualties. The prominent figures of Corporation Q in the meeting room were just laughing and chatting. Now, they suddenly fell into silence. Someone sighed in the face of such a formidable experiment object. How about we activate Luca? He is very experienced in fighting these experiment objects. Now everyone in the Q family suspects that a new life form has appeared in the experiment object, an intelligent experiment object. However, they chose to suppress and confine Luca, who possesses outstanding abilities. Outside the 109 fortress, cars were driving toward the fortress, with a shadow clinging under one of the vehicles. This person was Cooper, who was busy escaping. A convoy of vehicles transporting supplies was slowly approaching the 109 fortress, with a dark figure hanging onto the undercarriage of a large truck. This person was Cooper, who had traveled a long distance to reach the 109 fortress. As the convoy rumbled into the fortress, Cooper climbed up from under the vehicle onto the cargo box. The strenuous journey left him very exhausted. Suddenly, he became puzzled. The wooden boxes in front of him were tightly sealed. He took out his pocket knife and pried open one of the wooden boxes. The moment he saw the cargo, he was stunned because it was filled with firearms and ammunition. Cooper then realized that this was not military supplies being transported by L Corporation. It was illegal arms being smuggled in by someone. Before he could make sense of it, the truck came to a stop. It was already late at night. Leon shone a flashlight inside, and the two men stared at each other in surprise. He shouted, "Cooper!" In an instant, Cooper jumped outside. He landed one foot on Leon's chest and ran towards the street outside. If he didn't run now, he probably wouldn't be able to escape. After being kicked by Cooper, Leon exclaimed, "Ouch," and fell backward. He lay on the ground and didn't forget to shout to the side, "Quickly, unknown_0, catch him. He is Cooper." Cooper, who was running ahead, turned back and was almost scared to death by the sight. Although he had shadowed to block bullets, too many bullets were still not good at all. At this moment, Cooper felt very puzzled. He was just curious about Mountain Jay's secret at first. But he didn't even enter the blockade circle. The mind of Corporation Q is too narrow. The location where Leon and them are is not too far from Robert's shop. Seeing Leon running over out of breath. Who are they chasing? Leon, gasping for breath, said, "Robert, you have Cody help me catch Cooper, and I'll give you 100,000. Robert was stunned. How did Cooper end up in 109 Fortress? If Corporation Q catches Cooper, there might be trouble for unknown_0 himself. Suddenly, Palace spoke up and said, "Mission, help the distressed person escape pursuit." Robert pondered. In Palace's judgment, is Cooper already a distressed person? After receiving this mission, he is not prepared to help Leon close the roller shutter door. He doesn't care at all about Leon's grumbling outside. Seeing only Robert, he went straight to the backyard and jumped over the wall, then rushed towards the direction Cooper fled from on the roof. At this time, Cody also wanted to go out and take a look. As a result, Ryan looked at him and said, "Your master asked you to keep an eye on the White Bone Demon. You will let the White Bone Demon escape. He probably will come back to cast the headband spell for 3 days and 3 nights. Cody immediately behaved when he heard this. At this moment, Robert's speed on the rooftop has reached its peak, watching Cooper running desperately ahead. Leon and the others are chasing desperately behind. While keeping up, Robert is contemplating how to save Cooper without offending Leon. Luckily you don't have the weapon to knock them out. The next moment, Leon saw a hand suddenly reaching out from the shadow on the eaves next to him. A slap landed on his forehead, sending Leon directly to the ground. This not only saved Cooper, but also pinned the blame on the thugs perfectly for Lucy.